Welcome to the second public meeting for the Route 9W Mobility Plan, and thank you for your interest in this study. The Town of Ulster is pleased to be partnering with the Ulster County Transportation Council, who provided funding and support for this study, and with a consulting team led by Creighton Manning. The town initiated this study because of our concerns about traffic congestion and safety along the Route 9W corridor in the Town of Ulster, and the transportation system as a whole in terms of accommodations for all users, such as pedestrians and bicyclists. The purpose of this meeting is to receive your comments, which are very important to us, on the draft report and study's recommendations. This is a planning study, and your input will be considered and documented in the final report. There are a number of ways to provide your input. Please watch this entire video, read the report draft, and complete the survey questions. Tell us what you like and what you don't like about the draft recommendations and what should be different. Use the project emails and websites. Again, the Town of Ulster Town Board and the Supervisor thank you for your participation and interest that we all share in making the Route 9W corridor a better facility for all users. At this point, I'd like to turn things over to Brian Slack, Principal Transportation Planner at the Ulster County Transportation Council, to say a few words. Brian?
Thank you, Supervisor. Greetings, and thanks for joining this virtual open house presenting the draft findings of the Route 9W Mobility Plan. Together, in cooperation with the Town of Ulster, the New York State Department of Transportation, and our consultants, Creighton Manning Engineers and Transpo Group, we're pleased to present the draft findings of this important transportation study. The goal of the study was to address traffic safety and connectivity for all users of the 9W corridor, while paying close attention to travel conditions and congestion in and around the area. The study horizon looks 20 years into the future and is mindful of major development proposals and trends such as iPark 87 and evolving commercial land uses. Working with a technical advisory committee of local residents and business owners, we've developed a series of short, medium, and long-term recommendations for the corridor that address mobility for all road users, including transit riders, bicyclists, and pedestrians. The following presentation lays out those recommendations in detail. After you've had a chance to review them, please take a few minutes to share your thoughts and provide feedback through a brief survey or by contacting us directly through email. A detailed written report and story map have also been developed to illustrate and explain our recommendations. Thanks again for taking the time to participate in our virtual open house. And now I'd like to introduce to you Mark Sargent, engineer for Creighton Manning Engineers.
Welcome everyone, Mark Sargent with Creighton Manning. If you have not been involved in this planning study to date, we have a few opening slides here just to bring you up to speed on the status of this work. And what we're starting with here is a study area image, and it shows that this planning study is focused on transportation issues. It extends generally from Enterprise Drive on the west, the Leggs Mills Road on the north, the Frank Satile Boulevard on the east, to Van Cleef Lane on the south. The study is focused on Route 9W itself, and it does also look at the interchange area. The purpose we've talked about in the opening remarks is to look at safety and connectivity for all users in this important corridor, and to consider future travel needs, as Brian mentioned, 20 years into the future. We've been at this for a couple of years already, and we had a meeting very similar to this last summer where we got your input, and now we're back to share our recommendations with you and get your feedback on that as well. What we heard from you last summer when we asked, what are your priorities for the Route 9W area? Improved safety came out as the most important element, followed by improved bicycle and pedestrian mobility and accommodations and connectivity or access management. You can see some of the other things that weren't quite as highly rated from public input. We also asked what were your concerns with Route 9W, and again, pedestrian connectivity concerns rose to the top, aggressive driving, and the needs of bicyclists as the top three. In the middle there, you can see congestion. So although there's perceptions that there is a fair amount of congestion out here, it's not the highest concern of the people that use Route 9W in the surrounding area. So coming out of the existing conditions work, we identified a number of needs. None of this should be a surprise to any of you, but traffic operations at specific locations, the lack of multimodal infrastructure, meaning safe pedestrian crossings and lack of bicycle accommodations. There are crashes in certain areas, particularly in the south end of the corridor near Ulster Avenue, and the anticipated worsening of conditions as development at I-Park 87 and other redevelopment happens in the area. So as a result of all of that work, we did develop the draft recommendations that we'll share with you now. And it basically, we've categorized it with these 4 categories. Corridor-wide improvements. We think there's a real opportunity here to do some of the obvious things to improve pedestrian accommodations. And then a long-term vision that will walk you through. Some of that work could be more short or medium term, as Brian had mentioned in his opening remarks. So we'll walk you through these draft recommendations. So this is really the meat of it. North is shown to the right on this graphic, and really what we're recommending is a complete pedestrian network along both sides of Route 9W. The dark blue line shows existing sidewalks. The green line shows new sidewalks to fill gaps and place sidewalks along both sides of the entire corridor, and to begin to convert Route 9W to what we call a complete street. At the intersections themselves, the study recommends completing the box or adding safe crossings at all of the signalized intersections in the corridor where the majority of the signals do not have simple pedestrian crossings today. So really a straightforward priority is to get some pedestrian improvements in place in this corridor. We also looked at the trade-offs of what that would mean, and without spending a lot of time on this, the bottom line is that as more time is given to pedestrians to be able to cross the street safely, some of that time is taken away from traffic. With concerns already about a little bit of traffic congestion out here, it's good to know that we can add pedestrian accommodations, modify the signals, optimize them to coordinate them, and overall travel times will be substantially similar to what they are today for motorists. So it's a win-win. Motorists will realize similar conditions, and pedestrians will benefit by all the improved accommodations. From a long-term vision standpoint, the street today, Route 9W, is roughly 80 feet wide, give or take, from back of sidewalk on the west to edge of curb on the east. And the idea long-term is to incorporate more features for non-motorized users, widen the corridor by roughly 20 feet to accommodate the sidewalk that I mentioned on both sides, and bicycle accommodations raised and separated from traffic. That could look something like the schematics you see here, which would also improve safety and include a raised median in sections where it's considered practical and feasible. Here's another rendering of what that might look like in the vicinity of Hannaford. And you can see how this is quite different than Route 9W is today. And this is what we mean when we talk about a complete street. I had mentioned the 20 feet of widening roughly, and that would impact parking on both sides of the roadway. We've estimated that we would impact as much as 160 parking spaces, but no buildings would be taken with this widening. With the improved walkability and bicycle accommodations in the corridor, it could offset some of the parking needs and would certainly require further study and design, but that is a consequence of a wider roadway. There are a lot of other benefits to complete streets and incorporating street trees to protect people walking from the heat and sun, and make the street more attractive and give pedestrians a sense of security. So that all kind of illustrated a long-term vision for the corridor itself. The study also looked at concepts for the interchange. The idea there is when the bridges that carry Route 209 over 9W currently, when they reach their useful life, that would be the time to evaluate different configurations of the interchange. One concept is shown here. It's a single point urban interchange. It would provide improved pedestrian accommodations so you could cross the ramps at a signal. It would free up some space for economic development. It would moderate speeds through the area where right now there's a big speed differential between the interchange and the signals on either side. In the short term, the recommendation at the interchange is to signalize the eastbound off-ramp shown conceptually here. This is an area where there are longer delays for motorists waiting on the ramp, and there's also a weaving issue south of the ramp and a crash history, and the signal would address both of those issues. The vision also includes improved transit accommodations, again, for people that don't have access to a motor vehicle and are, more long distance travelers could get access to all the services in Ulster without having to drive a car. Incorporating land use best practices long-term is also a recommendation of the plan. The Ulster County Transportation Council has issued their community design manual, which articulates a number of best management practices, including mixed use and site design features and things that promote walkability, again, as a way to de-emphasize reliance on the motor vehicle. Access management is also part of the long-term vision here, and some of these might be able to be implemented a little sooner. Three concepts here, beginning in the upper left, is to extend Anaconda Drive to Leggs Mills Road. In the lower left, channelizing some intersections in the vicinity of Lake Road. And on the right, extending a connector road from Adams Fairacre Farms to Grant Avenue behind some of the businesses there, including Jolly Cow. Another access management concept is to modify the driveway in the area of the Burger King. You can see on the left, there are two-way driveways on either side of this large sign. And the idea would be to replace that with one two-way driveway, reducing the pedestrian crossing distance and reducing conflicts and addressing safety issues with multiple conflict points there. Related to access management is the idea of a pedestrian connection between the Riceley Street neighborhood and the Dina Marie Plaza. And you can imagine a nice connection like this would enable people in that neighborhood to walk back and forth to the plaza without having to jump in their car and drive along Route 9W. Another part of the long-term vision here is to pursue a gateway on the north end of the town, north of Leggs Mills Road. We heard concerns about speed of traffic entering the town from the north. Features like you see here, a raised median, trees, beginning the sidewalk network at a logical point north of Leggs Mills Road. All of these things will tell the driver the change in character of the road and to modify their behavior so they can enter the town at a better speed and really make it safer for all users. Another part of the long-term vision is to consider a raised pedestrian bridge between the Hudson Valley Mall and iPark 87, extending over Route 9W and the CSX Railroad tracks. And you can just imagine how a connection like this somewhere in the middle of the corridor would really benefit those new residents of the iPark 87 area, where they wouldn't need to walk out on Boise's Lane nor jump in their car to get to some of the services along Route 9W. An additional concept or recommendation in the plan we'd like your feedback on is the idea of a roundabout at Ulster Avenue. And you can see the existing configuration here. It is an area where there is a higher crash experience and probably the most congested location in the corridor. And this is what a roundabout would look like conceptually at that location. That little slip road, frontage road, would be converted one-way northbound, actually providing better access in and out of all those businesses than currently exists. A motorist could use the roundabout to change direction. If you're not all that aware of the benefits of roundabouts, or if you have a strong opinion about them, you should know that they are a proven safety countermeasure by FHWA. They do reduce crashes. They enable lower speeds. They calm traffic. They lead to improved operational performance, meaning less delay. And they are a very good form of traffic control, and they're easier and less costly to maintain than traffic signals. We've analyzed the effects of a possible roundabout here, and you can see by the bar charts that a roundabout would significantly reduce delays at Ulster Avenue, represented by the dark blue, bluish green bars there, from nearly a minute of delay to 15 seconds of delay. And this is what it could look like in its final form, a general rendering. So with that, we'd like your feedback on the concepts that you've seen here in the draft recommendations in the Route 9W mobility plan. Complete the survey. As you heard in some of the opening remarks, really important that you let us know what you think about these ideas. Thank you again for your input.